Right, time to get through all the various doormen and reach Victory Road. Honestly, I hope a good amount of the remaining footage is me grinding for the sake of grinding instead of trying to find a way through said road. Otherwise, this is gonna be incredibly excruciating. Well, it's probably a very sarcastic surprise indeed that we're fighting you in this spot for a second time. Wish I could say I was looking forward to this, but unfortunately that would be a blatant lie. But no, this poor kid has had the same cocky attitude, regardless of how many times we've smacked him around, and while technically I feel he's a better rival than some of the ones that will come later in the series, the lack of character development of any kind really hurts him. Seriously. There is no one else on this journey we interact with as much as Gary, other than the guy who gives us advice at the start of every gym. But while this recurring character has gotten stronger every step of the way, I feel I just wish there was more to him than just being another roadblock on the way to victory. Hell, one of the reasons why people tend to think his Rattata died partway through the game is because he's got so little going for him, despite being a recurring character, that they'll think of anything to help give him more weight in a mostly weightless story. Well, that type disadvantage didn't do much against Phyllis. Dear God, I'm feeling so damn complacent as we get, close to the end of the game that it's downright obscene. Granted, I want to get to level 50 at some point before we hit the Elite Four themselves, but... And finally, Kohaku gets to use Bubble Beam. So many of the moves in our team's overall move pool just aren't used at all. Kind of wish I had a good egg breaker joke at the moment, but nothing's really coming to mind. I mean, sure, I could say something about Garm cooking them, but while there are over 100 ways to cook an egg, I only really know how to scramble or soft-boil them personally, and I somehow doubt that the fire-spewing dog I've been training knows more ways how to prepare a kind of food than the person who trained him. I wouldn't mind him knowing more than what I can teach, but I somehow doubt that's going to be possible, especially considering just how shallow all our relationships are in this game, outside of the Pokemon themselves. Yeah, the level advantage that Gary has over us just doesn't feel all that meaningful here. And I somehow doubt, outside of just upping the levels even further, that we're gonna have any real challenge to look forward to as the game gets ever closer to the finale. Hell, I'm sorely tempted to just plain not complete my plans for this generation of Pokemon. And am further tempted to toss out my plans for the second generation and just do a more simple playthrough than what I did for Red and Blue, possibly doing the third generation before the second, if that ends up being the case. I really wish I could tell how much of that is due to how basic the first generation of Pokemon really was, and how much has to do with the gimmick I decided to give myself for this game really tiring me out. Certainly a very brutal exchange of blows, but it's good to know that Marbleback was tough enough to survive that first shot and deliver the one-hit win in return. Let's see if he can last long enough to take down the Charizard as well. Apparently he could. Congratulations, Marbleback. You're a damn solid tank. Yeah, that's a reasonable enough reaction considering the absolute shutdown we gave him. Had absolutely nothing to do with him being careless though, and it has more to do with how capable our team is, even when we're pretty under-leveled to take his team on. And of course, after yet another convincing ass-kicking, he just keeps talking as if he won and moves on. Despite how much of an ass he is for the most part, it's hard for me not to feel sorry for the poor bastard. Neither of us have all that much motivation to go for the championship other than just pride. Gary gets to actually speak, which by default gives him more of a personality than the player character, regardless of what name you give said character. Sure, as a blank slate, you can imagine yourself as the player, imagining a number of different ways to interact with various other characters, or you can imagine an original character, not putting yourself in that spot. But in my experience, there just isn't enough in the story for me to really come up with all that much. I'm more interested in the Pokemon world itself, and all these years later, there are a good number of Pokemon games out there, which makes it tough for me to understand why in the multiple remakes of the first generation, they never do anything to spice up the story as far as I can tell. Hell, the storytelling standards of 1998 were already much more than what Pokemon Red, Blue, or Yellow could bring to the table. If you compare this game to Suikoden 2, Fallout 2, Parasite Eve, any other role-player game I can think of, just released that year alone, this would feel lacking. But again, there is something about the Pokemon world that helped it become so much more successful than any of the other franchises that were in existence at the time. So no matter how justified my complaints might be, no matter how I might wish the series did more in some of these categories, the fact of the matter is that they've been so obscenely successful that it defies all belief. I honestly wish I knew what it was that made Pokemon such a juggernaut. Something measurable to explain why the likes of Shin Megami Tensei, Monster Rancher, and Digimon could never compare to Pokemon despite having plenty of similarities in a couple of different categories. Okay, seems this maze is going to be another rock-pushing puzzle with a very annoying encounter rate. Well, at least it looks like we're going to be getting plenty of experience for the sake of getting to level 50 in here. Oh dear. Some of these enemies are just level 22? That's going to make getting experience points here a pain in the ass. Good thing I'm fast-forwarding so much. And I'm still considering outright skipping some of this footage. Yeah, somehow doubted we'd catch him, and again, it's not like I'm especially in need of another rock type. A Geodude is just so much easier to get a lot earlier, and an Onix doesn't have much going for it, especially before it gained a Steel type evolution. Was really hoping that Garm was beyond the point when he had to worry about possibly being taken out by a wild Pokemon. All that just to push one rock onto one button. This is gonna be a long dungeon to go through. Granted, as the final dungeon in the game, it's supposed to be more of a pain to go through than any of the ones that came before. But there's nothing to make this feel all that impressive as we push onward step by step. And given the fact that I limited myself to healing at Pokemon Centers or at our mom's place, it's going to make this such a trial that I'm tempted to just skip all the footage of. But at the same time, I've been so desperate for a challenge in the Game Boy side of this playthrough that part of me actually likes the fact that we're running into problems here. It's not the kind of challenge I would have liked, something that tested our minds in a tactical way or maybe a puzzle-solving way, but at this point I'll take whatever challenge is thrown at us, even an excruciating grind. Now, for me to just start thinking of ways to keep this LP going without me going insane. Ugh. How did we even manage to get this far? Right, time to try to make another push. I wonder who's gonna feel more tortured by this final dungeon before the game finishes. The trainer/commentator who's kind of eager to get started working on Metroid Fusion, the Pokemon who have to work their way through this mind-numbing constant repeat of walking, fighting for every step, then having a pullback for healing, or the members of the audience who managed to get this far with us and didn't decide to watch better Pokemon Let's Plays. Seriously, I know I'm not the most interesting Let's Player to watch in general. There are plenty of people who bring a lot of things to the table, from personality traits that get exaggerated at times, to spontaneous reactions or discussions with other people while the footage goes on. And of course, people far more knowledgeable about the mechanics of whatever game they choose to do. I very much appreciate everyone who stuck with me for whatever reasons you may have for over 70 parts of this long LP. I hope you've been entertained by this LP series and haven't just been using it as a cure for insomnia. Well, at least it doesn't look like we have to push the same rocks back into place to be able to keep making progress, even if the rocks for some reason reset when we come back after taking a break. I'll take any mercies I can find around here. And of course we have some trainers to deal with in this dungeon, because of course we need another reason to deal with attrition than just the absurd encounter rate. Garm, I swear I won't laugh if you get your ass kicked by a cat, especially one that's somehow faster than you. Well, we're definitely going back to the Pokemon Center immediately after this. Holy shit, if that Persian did anything other than screech at us there, Garm would have gone down. I'm not gonna say Garm didn't deserve that win, he most certainly did, but holy shit, that was absurdly close. I've seen thicker pieces of paper. Well, that did less damage than I was hoping, though I suppose I should have used Earthquake instead. Though it doesn't look like that Ninetales even wants to bother actually attacking us. Well, of course you did if you've only had 2 Pokemon and the second one didn't throw a single actually offensive move. Hey, if you never want to lose, then never enter anything competitive. because once you do, the possibility is always going to be there, especially the higher up you go in the ranks. Sorry, Garm, didn't think to switch you out from the absolute front. Sure, it's not a major consequence, but still, stings a bit to see. The moment we get back to the Pokemon Center again, I'm calling it a day here. I'll decide later if I'm just gonna show footage of us fighting the enemy trainers, or if I'm skipping all the way to the Elite Four, or if I'm going to at least show us getting to the other side of this dungeon and then start skipping crap. Because I'm really running out of steam for this game this many clips in, and I've got no clue just how long it's going to take for me to regain enough energy to try anything else Pokemon related. This LP really took a lot out of me, and I have no clue how I managed to get this far the way I've been doing it. I mean, sure, I took a break or two, but still. Hello, Nurse Joy, my old friend. I've come to heal my pup again.